A roasted bean that changed society and also caused arguments, and the answer to it can be found down here. Have you ever stopped to think about the journey of your morning coffee? Beyond its rich aroma and comforting warmth, coffee holds centuries of stories, shaping not just our mornings, but our societies. Today, coffee shops are ubiquitous hubs of community, work, and casual conversation. But what if I told you that for a significant part of their history, these vibrant spaces were largely off limits to half the population? What came first? The humble tea room or the cafe? That's a question. Here, where you see the Legends grooming lounges, used to be a tea room. Over the years, Coggeshall has had many places where people go to drink cups of tea and even cups of coffee. And with the rise of coffee houses in this day and age, you don't hear much about tea rooms. It's usually cafes, and you associate both drinks with the humble cafe. Sadly, one of our lovely cafes is now closed, and that is a permanent closure now. That's going to be some other business. But the Bijou is no more. They serve a drink over there that has a lot of history. Our story begins in the 17th century England, a time of profound cultural shifts. The first coffee house in England opened its doors in 1650, not in the bustling capital of London, but in the scholarly city of Oxford. It was established by a Jewish entrepreneur named Jacob, paving the way for a revolutionary new social space. In fact, the Grand Café, still standing on the same site today, is considered by many an Oxford institution as carrying on a legacy almost 400 years old. Just 2 years later, in 1652, the concept reached London, and soon coffee houses became the nerve centres of public life. They were places for business, news, gossip, and spirited debate. But here's where things get interesting and a little contentious. History and a bit of controversy. So what are we talking about? We'll find out. Historians have long debated the role of women within these early English coffee houses. On one side, historian Brahma states quite explicitly that women were forbidden from participating as customers, full stop. However, historian Brian Cowan offers a more nuanced view. While he agrees that coffee houses were generally free and open to all subjects despite class, gender or merit, he notes a crucial caveat: the conversation. Coffee house discourse revolved primarily around male-centered issues, politics, business, cultural criticism. These were subjects not traditionally considered proper for women. As such, even if technically allowed, a woman's participation in these spaces was often unwelcome. Coffee houses, in essence, became a gentlemanly sphere, a sanctuary where men could engage in intellectual discourse without the perceived distraction or need to associate with women. Understandably, this made them less ideal for a lady who wished to preserve her respectability in society. Essentially, they had become men's clubs, almost the equivalent of the gentlemen's clubs we've seen in this modern era. It comes as no surprise then that many complaints against the coffee house came directly from women. They didn't passively accept their exclusion. They vocalised their concerns, often using surprisingly subtle yet powerful arguments. One of the most fascinating examples is the women's petition against coffee. This petition didn't just protest the places where coffee was consumed, but the coffee house itself. They argued that this new dark brew made men as unfruitful as the sandy deserts from where that unhappy berry is said to be brought, claiming it made men sterile and impotent. They linked coffee consumption directly to the nation's failing birth rate. Beyond the biological, the petition also raised a poignant social protest. Coffee houses, they argued, provided in times of domestic crisis when a husband should have been attending his duties at home. It was a clever way to highlight the disruption coffee houses brought to family life and traditional gender roles. Yet the story isn't entirely black and white. Cowan points to several instances where women were allowed to frequent these establishments. They might be present when conducting business ventures, or in Bath where female sociability was more readily accepted. Then there were the coffee women, the female proprietors. Figures like Anne Rochford and Moll King become well known, operating these establishments and serving coffee. The often satirical portrayal of women in these times further highlights their complex position. Take the print "A Mad Dog in a Coffee House." It depicts men comically fleeing a rabid dog, their faces exaggerated with fear, yet the woman serving coffee remains calm, beautiful, even as a man attempts to crawl under her dress. This piece wasn't just about a dog, it was a satirical jab at male effeminacy. What came first, the coffee house or the tea room? Well, the answer, plain and simple, is coffee houses came first. What about the English tea? I hear somebody asked. Well, that's a subject for another video. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in another video. Could be coffee, but who knows. Stay safe.